In the early hours of February 22, 2024, a 22-year-old runner and nursing student, Laken Riley, went on a run she would unfortunately never return from. Her body was found hours later. She had been brutally murdered. While the suspect has been arrested and investigations are still going on, the painful loss of such a talented and strong-willed student dampened the mood all over Georgia. Laken Riley's only wish as a nursing student was to study hard enough to be able to help others. As everyone fights for justice to be served, it is unfortunate that Riley's wish would never come to pass. And even more unfortunate is the fact that this tragedy happened in broad daylight and no one came to her rescue. This is the disturbing case of Laken Riley. On February 22, 2024, Laken decided to embark on an early morning run within the premises of the University of Georgia, UGA, in Athens, Georgia. Before leaving, she told her roommate, Connolly Huth, and then headed over to the running pads near the intramural fields in Lake Herrick on the eastern campus of the Augusta University College of Nursing. Laken left in the early hours of the morning, as she usually did, but didn't return for hours. When her roommate noticed that she wasn't back at her usual time, she became worried. So she called the UGA police around 12:07 p.m. that afternoon, complaining about the delay of her best friend Laken. She explained that Laken went on a run and wasn't back yet, which was unlike her. The UGA police immediately took to searching for the young student, and in a couple of minutes, just around 1 p.m., the lifeless body of Laken Riley was discovered in Oconee Forest Park, behind Lake Herrick, in a wooded area near the rock spills. Her deceased body was found in a disturbing state, and initial investigations ruled the cause of her death to be blunt force trauma and a disfigured skull. This meant that Laken was unfortunately hit in the head repeatedly by a hard object until her head was broken and her skull disfigured. It was so bad that she was pronounced dead immediately after her body was spotted. As investigations continue, many sick and disturbing discoveries have already been made, but the question remains, why Laken? Was she targeted, or was she just at the wrong place at the wrong time? With the help of surveillance footage from CCTV on the school premises, investigators were able to detect what the suspect looked like, ruling that it was a male and that he was wearing a specific hat. Authorities have also been able to locate a man fitting the description who was also wearing a similar hat. A man named Jose Ibarra. When an Athens Clarke County Police Department (ACCPD) officer approached Diego Ibarra because he matched the description of the suspect in the homicide investigation, in a bid to free himself from being a suspect, Diego Ibarra presented the officer with a U.S. permanent resident card, also called a green card, as identification. The card was, however, determined to be fraudulent. Diego Ibarra is a citizen of Venezuela and was processed for expedited removal but claimed a credible fear of return to Venezuela. He was consequently released from immigration custody pending adjudication of his claim for asylum on April 30, 2023. Eventually, Diego Ibarra was only arrested for having a fake green card but was not implicated in Laken's murder. It was his brother Jose Ibarra who was arrested as the suspected murderer. Meanwhile, the two brothers had and still have a long list of offenses, from theft to illegal immigration. According to Jeffrey Clark, the chief of police at the University of Georgia, the suspect, Jose Antonio Ibarra, resided in an apartment complex approximately 1 mile from the wooded area where Laken Riley's body was discovered. Jose Ibarra has a history of previous run-ins with law enforcement, having been arrested by both federal and state authorities in multiple jurisdictions. The suspect, Jose Ibarra, is a 26-year-old Venezuelan national who illegally entered the United States in September 2022 alongside his wife, who was pregnant at the time, and their young child. Their intent was to flee the political turmoil and economic crisis in their home country. However, they were caught and arrested. After their stories were heard, they were released by Border Patrol agents near El Paso, Texas. The family was put on a bus and sent to New York, where they settled, and Ibarra began working as a food delivery driver. He was, however, arrested in August 2023 for endangering his 5-year-old son by having the child ride on the back of his moped without a helmet. Although Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, sought to detain him, the New York Police Department released him before a detainer could be issued. Meanwhile, Ibarra's brother, Diego, had already established himself in Athens, Georgia, where he had used a fake green card to gain employment at the University of Georgia in September 2023. When Jose found himself in trouble in New York, he decided to join his brother in Georgia. More recently, the Ibarra brothers were accused of shoplifting together at a local Walmart, but were merely given a citation and released. Apparently, the university has two lake herricks, the big one, which is out in the open, and the little one, which is secluded, located in a wooded area very close to the Ibarra's home. It turns out that it was in the little lake herrick that Laken Riley was brutally murdered and dragged to gravel spills, where she was found. How nobody witnessed the incident is still a mystery, but unfortunately, Laken's death is not. It has also been discovered that Laken tried calling 911 a few minutes before her death, but the process was cut short by the murderer, who is suspected to be Jose Ibarra. It still hurts to know that Laken knew she needed help and tried getting one, but was stopped. The murder of Laken Riley has sparked a national debate on immigration in the United States. The suspect, Jose Ibarra, a Venezuelan national, entered the country illegally and had a prior criminal record, which has raised questions about the effectiveness of the U.S. immigration system and border control. The case has been cited by politicians and advocates for stricter immigration laws. They argue that Ibarra's presence in the country was a result of lax immigration policies and enforcement. Some call for increased funding for border security, stricter deportation policies, and a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. On the other hand, immigrant rights advocates argue that the murder should not be used to justify anti-immigrant policies and that the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pointed out that Ibarra's criminal history was not detected by immigration authorities, highlighting the need for more effective background checks and immigration reform. The debate has sparked a renewed focus on immigration policy, with some politicians and media outlets using the case to push for stricter immigration laws, while others argue for a more nuanced approach to immigration reform. After the arrest, the indictment in Clark County Superior Court formally charged Jose Antonio Ibarra with Riley's murder, which authorities described as a crime of opportunity. He is charged with multiple counts related to the murder of Laken Riley. The charges include malice murder, felony murder, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, kidnapping, hindering a 911 call, and concealing the death of Laken Riley. Ibarra was denied bail and has been held in custody in Georgia since his arrest. A preliminary hearing was set for March 7, 2024, to determine probable cause and the government's motion to detain. The Athens-Clarke County coroner officially attributed Riley's death to blunt force trauma to the head. However, the arrest warrants released to the public for Jose Ibarra do not contain many new details. According to the warrants, Riley was killed between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. on February 22, 2024. The warrants say Ibarra physically prevented Riley from making or completing a 911 call and used an object to cause great bodily harm, disfiguring her skull. The warrants also indicate he dragged her from the intramural fields to a secluded area and concealed her death. Authorities also believe Ibarra's actions were a solo act in that he and Riley had no relationship. It is believed that it was a crime of opportunity where the suspect saw an individual and the bad things that happened immediately followed. It remains unknown why Riley was killed. The case is being prosecuted by Athens-Clarke District Attorney Deborah Gonzalez with the assistance of veteran prosecutor Sheila Ross. The investigation is being led by Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, with critical assistance from the FBI, GBI, Athens-Clarke County Police Department, University of Georgia Police Department, and Clark County Sheriff's Office. The Ibarra's legal proceedings have been closely followed by the public and media, with many calling for justice for Laken Riley and her family. As the legal proceedings continue, the community remains vigilant and continues to seek closure for the Riley family. While pressure is being mounted on Jose as the murder suspect, his brother isn't left out. 29-year-old Diego Ibarra of Venezuela was charged by a criminal complaint with possession of a fraudulent document, and if convicted, he would be faced with a maximum of 10 years in prison. U.S. Magistrate Judge Charles Weigel ordered Diego Ibarra to be detained pending trial based on evidence of the defendant being a flight risk. The case is being prosecuted by Assistant U.S. Attorney Mike Morrison. Following the arrest, the city of Athens has also faced heavy criticism for its perceived status as a sanctuary city. However, sanctuary cities were outlawed in Georgia in 2009, and officials denied that the city was one. It was indeed a hard time for everyone in the city, and it still is. For the parents whose kids attend the university, their anger is visible. For the students, they couldn't help but wonder how such a danger lurked around them. The next Monday, hundreds of students gathered at UGA to remember Laken Riley and another student, Wyatt Banks, who recently took his own life. A funeral for Riley was then scheduled for March 1, 2024. Born on January 10, 2002, to parents Williams, Jason Riley, and Allison Phillips in Marietta, Georgia, USA, Laken Riley was a fun-loving girl. She enjoyed the company of her parents and siblings and found an interesting love for sports. The young star loved to run, and she often engaged in sporting activities in school. Laken was an intelligent and devoted student. She flowed well with her colleagues and tried to take everyone along. She successfully ran cross-country while she was at River Ridge High School in Woodstock, where she graduated in 2020. Laken then became an undergraduate student at the University of Georgia and was still doing very well with her grades. She, however, continued running recreationally as it helped prepare her for the day, and besides, it was something she was used to. She remained at the University of Georgia until the spring of 2023, when she transferred to the Augusta University, College of Nursing in Athens, Georgia, because of her desire to study and become a nurse. Laken Riley appeared on the dean's list and was enrolled as a junior, which she was content with. She was indeed a bright and ambitious young woman, beloved by her family and friends. Her passion for helping others and her compassionate nature made her a natural fit for the nursing profession. Laken Riley was known for her generosity and her love for people. She was a good friend and would often try to contribute positively whenever she could. She was known for her warm smile, kind heart, and dedication to her studies. Laken's family described her as a shining light who brought joy and love to those around her. Her friends remembered her as a loyal and supportive companion, always willing to lend a listening ear. Laken was an active member of her community, volunteering at local hospitals and participating in charity events. She had a bright future ahead of her, but her life was cut short, with her tragic death leaving a void in the lives of all who knew her. Laken's love, kindness, and generosity continue to inspire those who are fortunate enough to have known her, and that is also the force behind the fight for justice. Laken was a great student. Her love for her studies was unbeatable, as she maintained good grades, yet somehow it didn't affect her love for sports. She still loved to run and would often go on a run in the early hours of the morning, whether she was visiting home or was still in school. It was fun and a lifestyle for Laken, but unfortunately, it became the reason for her death. Laken Riley's murder has drawn national attention, becoming a highly publicized and politicized case, with national media attention and political figures weighing in. The case was cited by some as an example of the need for stricter border control and immigration policies, amidst a surge in border crossings during the Biden administration. Former President Donald Trump tweeted about the case, calling it a result of a border invasion, and later met with Riley's family before his campaign rally in Rome, Georgia, on March 9, 2024. Trump's tweet read, "Border invasion is destroying our country and killing our citizens." The horrible murder of 22-year-old Laken Riley at the University of Georgia should have never happened. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden mentioned the case during the 2024 State of the Union address, but mistakenly referred to Laken Riley as Lincoln Riley, sparking a correction from the audience. The president's remarks came after Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene shouted Riley's name at the president, highlighting the political tension surrounding the case. President Joe Biden's use of the term illegal to describe the suspect also sparked criticism from some Democrats, who argued that it dehumanized the individual and perpetuated harmful rhetoric. However, Joe Biden later expressed regret for his unprepared remarks. On the day of her funeral, family and friends delivered emotional speeches at the funeral and memorial services, remembering her as a kind, compassionate, and vibrant person who touched many lives. Her mother, Allison Phillips, remembered her daughter as a bright and shining light who had a profound impact on everyone she met and expressed gratitude for the outpouring of support from the community, urging everyone to keep shining Laken's light and continue her legacy of love and kindness. Laken's stepfather, Jason Riley, spoke about her kindness, empathy, and dedication to helping others, encouraging everyone to live like Laken and make a positive impact in their communities, just as she had done through her passion for nursing and her selfless nature. Friends and classmates shared stories about Laken's sense of humor, her love for adventure, and her passion for nursing, remembering her as a loyal and supportive friend who always put others first. Her sorority sisters honored her memory, recalling her kindness, generosity, and leadership, emphasizing her commitment to service and her inspiring presence in their lives. Through their speeches, Laken's loved ones not only celebrated her life, but it also served as a testament to the impact she had on those around her, inspiring others to carry on her legacy and make a positive difference in the world. It was indeed an emotional day for the whole of Athens and Georgia by extension. Meanwhile, Riley's parents, Jason Riley and Allison Phillips, were invited to the State of the Union by Georgia Congressman Mike Collins, but they declined the invitation. The family has instead focused on honoring Laken's memory and advocating for change. They plan to establish a foundation in her honor, to support victims of crime and advocate for policy changes to prevent similar tragedies. Given the gravity of the situation, it was bound to happen. The bill was called the Laken Riley Act. Fortunately, on March 7, 2024, the Laken Riley Act was passed by the U.S. House of Representatives in response to the murder of Laken Riley, aiming to toughen immigration policies and enforcement. The bill mandates the federal detention of migrants who commit burglary or theft, making them ineligible for release on bail or parole. It would also be able to allow state governments to sue the federal government for failing to enforce immigration laws, potentially leading to legal challenges. It also increases pressure on the federal government to strengthen immigration enforcement. The bill was passed with a significant majority in the House, with 251 votes in favor and 170 against. 37 Democratic members joined all Republican members in supporting the bill, indicating some bipartisan support for the legislation. Although it still needs to pass the Senate and be signed by the president to become law, it is off to a good start, but alongside that, it comes with challenges. This law in progress is likely to face legal challenges and criticism from immigration advocacy groups, who argue that such measures would lead to further marginalization and mistreatment of migrant communities. Only time will tell if it will actually work as planned. The charges against Jose Ibarra have now been increased to 10, each with its own reasons and consequences. He is now charged with malice murder, felony murder, kidnapping with bodily injury, aggravated assault with intent to rape, aggravated battery, obstruction or hindering a person from making an emergency telephone call, tampering with evidence, and being a peeping Tom. Malice murder and felony murder are the most serious homicide charges in Georgia. Georgia, unlike many states, does not have degrees of murder. Malice murder requires intent, while felony murder has a lower burden of proof and does not require intent to kill. According to the indictment record, the peeping Tom charge is based on Ibarra allegedly peeping through the window of an apartment in UGA's University Village Building S and spying on an individual on the same day as Riley's murder. The individual in question was not Riley. The indictment also further states that Jose Ibarra allegedly killed Riley with blunt force trauma to the head and by asphyxiating or choking her. The record indicates that Ibarra also attempted to rape Riley. Criminal defense attorney Daryl Cohen, who is not affiliated with this case, said it would almost certainly go to trial. He said the case will continue to bring attention to Athens and spark changes in state legislatures and Congress. Jose Ibarra will next have an arraignment before a Superior Court judge in Athens, Clark County. He can either plead guilty or not guilty, and if he pleads not guilty, the case could head to trial. If Jose Ibarra is convicted or pleads guilty just to the murder charge, he will get life in prison with no chance of parole, according to criminal defense attorney Daryl Cohen. But regardless of what happens in the trial, the family will be grieving for the rest of their lives. The county of Clark and the entire city of Athens are still stunned that something like this could have happened, and they all want to do something to prevent it from happening again. There's no statute of limitations on grief. An arraignment hearing has been scheduled for Jose Ibarra. According to the website for Clark County Superior Court, Ibarra is due in court at 11 a.m. on May 31st. At that time, he can either plead guilty or not guilty. If he pleads not guilty, he will go to trial. Court records obtained in March indicated that Jose Ibarra was exercising his right to a speedy trial and asked for a jury trial at that time. His defense team also asked for all evidence and documents about his case to be turned over to them. This means that Jose Ibarra would likely plead not guilty, which is a common strategy in criminal cases. By pleading not guilty, the defendant forces the prosecution to prove their case and prevent evidence, allowing the defense to challenge the charges and advocate for their client's innocence. It's important to note that a not guilty plea doesn't necessarily mean the defendant is claiming innocence, but rather that they are forcing the prosecution to meet its burden of proof. The legal process can be complex, and it's important to follow the case developments to understand the nuances of the trial. Jose Ibarra might indeed plead not guilty for a crime he might have committed just to escape justice, But we all hope that enough evidence has and will be gathered to show proof and bring justice into effect. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. Thank you for watching to the end. Please leave a comment about what you think about this case and also like and share this video. Remember to subscribe to our channel for updates, and we will see you in our next video. Bye.